particularly has been a really, really full speaking season for me. I do a lot of speaking engagements now, and I love it. It really, really fills my own cup. It's like a form of self-care for me. So I'm going to talk to you today about your personal wellness, avoiding burnout, and the importance of self-care. This is something that I want you to keep a really open mind to as we discuss this. I talk about this often, and I talk about this with big intention because our culture on the outside environment has become a space where everything is based around self-care. You know, you can have the face masks and the bubble bath and the sweatshirt that says self-care and all those things. But what I'm going to talk to you today is science-based, evidence-based self-care and how it can actually improve your life, improve your health, wellness, and your overall lust and enjoyment of life. So let's do that. I want to first give you a little bit of background about myself and why I do this work, how I got here. So my name is Jill Whalen. I am founder and CEO of Whalen Wellness Incorporated, and I launched this company in 2020. I've actually been in business in the fitness, health, wellness industry on and off since 2009, but this company in particular was a whole rebirth of what I do, because I changed kind of who I am through some healing myself and then came back to the industry. And I'm going to share a little bit of that background with you first, because I feel like it's important for you to kind of understand my journey and why I have such personal investment and such passion in what I do. The work that I do today is an absolute passion project. I do it with a whole heart every single day, and I just feel so blessed to be able to do what I do. So I am in St. John's, Newfoundland, as mentioned. I graduated from Memorial University in 2003 with a Bachelor of Commerce degree, a business degree. I remember in high school trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I thought, well, if I get a business degree, I should be able to get a job. I should be able to find a job somehow, somewhere in some capacity. So that's what I did. And I actually focused or majored in accounting and auditing. So fun fact, I am a retired Canada Revenue Agency auditor. I did that in a previous life, the most hated profession out there, I think, but I sure enjoyed my time there. My work was in first auditing small and medium businesses. So I learned a lot through that. And that has turned over into my business career now. But also then I went on to do special investigations, which was an interesting piece of Canada Revenue Agency as well, because I worked alongside with the RNC and the RCMP in some highly confidential cases, which was really cool. But when I graduated university in 2003 and I started working in my accounting career, I knew right away I liked that work. I always really liked that work. There's always an answer with accounting. The balance sheet must balance, and you figure it out. You crunch some numbers, and there's always a task and there's always a solution. So I really loved that work. However, having my head down in a cubicle, you probably know from 3 minutes of me speaking, is not exactly my style. I am the girl with the report card that says that she talks too much, and it's worked out pretty well for me, I have to say. So I knew that I wanted something different. I needed something else, something in maybe to go along with what I was doing in my everyday career. When I was 18 years old, so backing up here a few years, when I was 18 years old, going through something particularly tough for an 18-year-old, which was my parents' divorce, which was long overdue and a bit of a messy situation, and a lot, very, very stressful for an 18-year-old. I found at that time, I discovered something through self-care that really helped me. I saved my babysitting money and I went and purchased my very first gym membership. What I learned almost immediately was that through pushing my physical self, through really giving my body a good push, I learned that it really changed my mind. So one of my mottos these days is move your body to change your mind. I love a good physical push. I'm absolutely obsessed with consuming things around anatomy, strength training, cardiovascular activity, and all the different ways to train yourself. I love it so much. I have a very unique way of training people. And I learned that emotional mental release from fitness was probably the most important piece for me. It was something that I really, really loved. And I didn't realize it existed because so many people walk around this planet thinking that they have to exercise, and it really sucks, and they really don't want to. And it's, instead of thinking that it's something that they get to do and they have immediate power in changing the energy of their lives. And so that's been part of my mission. So I went on, after I graduated university, I went to work right away in the accounting field. 1 year later, my boyfriend at the time, who was in engineering school, graduated with his engineering degree. He's now my husband. And that was 2004 during the oil boom. So off we went to Alberta, across the country. And that's where we settled down and started our careers. I knew right then that I wanted to do something with fitness. So what I did, instead of going back to university full time, I had just done 6 years in university. I wasn't really interested in that. And this was a pre-pandemic world. Travel was really easy and readily available. I traveled the world. I had identified experts in different pieces of health and wellness that I really admired, people in the space of sports-specific training, pre- and postnatal training, metabolic conditioning, mindset coaching. And so I traveled all across Canada, the US, and even into Europe. And that's how I gained my education piece in health and wellness. I loved that so much. So what happened in the years following that was that I straddled two careers. I spent my day as an accountant and spent my evenings and weekends as a fitness coach. In 2017, a bit of a shift happened in my life. In 2017, I was the owner of a gym, a local gym here in St. John's. We actually had 2 locations, and that gym was doing quite well. We have 14 staff, a couple hundred members. Things were going really, really well business-wise, but I started to do some self-exploration. And I can see now that it was likely because I was approaching a milestone birthday. This was 2017. I would have turned 40 in 2019. And I started asking myself questions like, what is missing here? Why don't I find joy in the everyday? Why don't I have the excitement in my life that I thought I would have once I achieved all those goals that I wanted when I first set out? You know, I had my university degree, I had my fitness coaching. Peter and I were then married. We have our children, we have our home, all of the things that I ever wanted, but I didn't feel great every day. And I really couldn't figure out what was missing. And the only way that I can describe it as I started to really lean into this and explore it is like, I felt like I was in a glass case that was quickly filling with water. And I knew that something had to change for me. All of my years of fitness coaching to that point, it was always the most conflicting thing in the world because I loved coaching. I love the connection with people. As I said, I love learning and I love utilizing that ability to train people in really unique ways. But I also felt extreme misalignment with the fitness industry in terms of shaming people, no woman is too small, no man is big enough. It's just all the body pieces and all the diet culture and all the predatory ways of the fitness industry. I just really didn't like that. And I knew that there were ways that this could be done better. I really thought if it took a whole other approach, if somebody could stop these ways, these mechanisms, we could really help people. And my biggest pet peeve was that there are top CEOs in the world, huge performers, people that could be so happy in their life, but they're walking around worried about every calorie or carb that goes in their mouth and worried about the size of their thighs. As they say, Mother Teresa never worried about the size of her thighs because she had shit to do. She was not worried about that. And we should all feel that way. So I got to a point when I was almost 40 years old where even personally, with a long history of what developed from, maybe because of, maybe in spite of, or maybe due to working in the fitness industry, I suffered many years of disordered eating, over exercising, obsession, and body dysmorphia, and all kinds of stuff like that. And I was heading into 40 years old and I said, listen, there's got to be better out there for me. There's got to be something better. And I can't continue to be a representative of this industry in this way. So I had a very difficult conversation with my business partner in the gym at that time. And I told her for personal reasons, it was time for me to move on from the gym. I really encouraged her to keep the gym going because it wasn't her that needed fixing. It wasn't the coaches or the clients that needed fixing, but I knew that I had to step away. I knew that there was work to be done and that work had to be on me primarily. There was definite burnout and there was very, very little self-care. So on August 31st, 2017, ultimately my partner decided it was also, she was quite younger than me and she was just starting her family. And so she decided it was time for her to move on too. So August 31st, 2017, we closed the doors of our gyms. We were pulling equipment out right down at the last hour at midnight. And then began a new journey for me. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't even tell my husband. I didn't make some sort of big announcement on Facebook. But what I did was I decided it was time to rediscover me. Some healing had to be done. Some growing had to be done. And I had to start taking care of me. Instead of trying to take care of all these other people in these ways that felt conflicting, it was time for me to just go home, love my family, and love myself. And that's what I did. So as of mid-September in 2017, I had my 4-pillar to wellness system created. It is in a notebook right there in my office, and I still revisit those notes frequently. There's also, oh, my apologies. Nobody ever calls me, and it had to happen now. Let's get back here. What happened here? Let's see. All right, we got this. We got this. All right. So by that point, I had this 4-pillar system to wellness in a notebook. And the reason why I did that was because for the first time in my life to that point, the gym was gone. It was removed. So certain pressures that I felt or certain feelings that I had, they were removed. It was gone. And I had to find a way back to feeling great again. And I took a look in the mirror and I said, listen here, you have the education, you have the tools, you have the toolbox to make this change within yourself. So I did that. I wrote it down and I started practicing my 4 pillars with intention every single day. And I have every single day since. So this is the 4-pillar system to wellness. This is the secret sauce, if you will. This is what has absolutely changed my life and elevated it to a place that I never thought that I would arrive at. And now thousands of other people, and I'm getting to that and how that occurred. So this logo that you see here in my studio on my sweater and up here in the left-hand side, that is a local artist's rendering of my 4-pillar system. This logo was an agonizing process because it had to be perfect. I really wanted it before I came out with Whale and Wellness, which I'm getting to. It really had to be a piece of our 4-pillar system that would have impact and be a reminder to everybody every day. So the problem with the industry is that there are books, there are gimmicks, there are quick fixes, there are get into your jeans programs and little black dress programs and put on muscle programs and all that. But at the bottom of all of that, every single one of us just wants to feel good. And that's what wellness is. Wellness is not a shape. It's not a size. It's a state of being inside of the person that you already are, because you don't need fixing. And this is how we get there. I believe in these 4 pillars. This is powerful stuff. It is basic stuff. It's not, you don't have to calculate anything. You don't need to count anything. This is the answer right here. And this is what the world needs. So in no particular order, the 4 pillars are movement, moving your body every day, and movement should and can look different for all of us. We all will not do the exact same thing. It would be ridiculous for me to say to this group right now, all right, we are all running the Tele 10 because it's not really a thing. That's a 10-mile race locally. That's not really a thing that works for every single person, but movement does. We're built to move, and we can all find ways to move that is good for ourselves. Next is hydration. As North Americans, we are chronically dehydrated. We don't even realize it. There are ways, if you today drank a little more water than you did yesterday, you would have immediate impacts on your energy, on your digestion, and on your metabolic rate. It's amazing what we can do by just consuming a little more water. The next one is mindset. Physical health is important, but mental health and mindset are critical factors to wellness, and they are the pieces that are often ignored. And then the last one is nutrition. We take a different approach to nutrition. We work on healing and building food relationships and really getting acquainted with food and learning that all food is good food and we eat according to how we want to feel. And it is a game changer. And we absolutely take this system. We employ it every single day over here. And this is what's been changing lives. In 2020, I had just come back in 2019, actually. I had come back coaching in a small capacity. I was now 2.5 years into my 4-pillar system of wellness on myself. I felt like $1,000,000. I felt like I really, really wanted to get back to coaching. But again, I feared that misalignment and that conflict within myself. So I just dipped my toes back in. There was a new gym opening up in my community. So I just taught the morning class there. I was there 3 hours a week, and that was the level of my involvement. And that was it. That was in the fall of 2019. Then we had our major record-breaking snowfall here in St. John's, and everything shut down for a couple of weeks. A month later, COVID-19 happened. And then it was time, the gyms shut down completely. Nobody was even considering going to a gym, and there was none to go to. And it was then that people started reaching out to me and said, this world needs you right now. We need your connection. We need your impact. We need what you can do without a gym. And I thought to myself, my husband was really pushing this for me. He's like, you would love this. You would love to do this online. I know it's different. I know it's uncomfortable, but you would thrive in this space. You have to do this. And I said, I am not doing this. You can Google free workouts and get whatever you want anywhere. I am not putting this out here like everybody else does when something gets strange or you can't physically go to a gym. Anyways, my friends and my husband wore me down. And I decided, when I really, really thought about it, I thought maybe this is my chance for impact. Maybe this is my chance to really, truly help people, because the reality is, in coaching people inside the gym for 3 hours a week, I have 3 hours a week. In those 3 hours, I have to deliver you an excellent workout. That doesn't leave any time for the real connection, for the overall wellness piece, for these 4 pillars, for a way to really, really encourage people to understand that fitness, you can't hate your way to a healthier body, or you can't exercise your way to somebody else or somebody different, like the fitness industry sometimes tries to tell us to do. So I put it out there. I said, okay, I will put it out there. If we get 20 people online, we're laughing. That will be great. That will be a nice little group we can connect with online. Within 24 hours, we had 121 people registered. It continued to explode because there's a need for this approach. Now, we are a 4,000 member community across 9 countries, and I am so proud of that. We are really, really changing lives and changing minds over here, and I'm not stopping. Every time I get the opportunity to talk to somebody about this, it serves as absolute jet fuel for my mission. I love what I do so much. So what I'm getting at is that things changed for me personally, and things have changed for the people that I work with, because we have realized the importance of taking care of self. You cannot pour from an empty cup. This is something that we need to understand. A lot of people think, and here is your biggest truth bomb of the day, self-care is not selfish. Absolutely not. And one of the biggest discoveries in my journey has been that living a life of joy, living a life that you're excited about every day, has to do with taking care of yourself. Joy is something that we must cultivate. We can't sit around and expect happiness and excitement in the everyday to just fall in our lap, because it doesn't work that way. When I made the shift to focusing from focusing on shrinking my body to a certain size or a certain number on the scale, to instead taking care of myself in all of the ways that matter, my life completely changed. I call it the TSN turning point of my life. Everything is completely different. So although I haven't met anybody in this group before, except for Erica, who's in my community, I tell people I was born in 1979, but if you met me before 2017, then we need to meet again, because things have completely and utterly changed. When I began to intentionally practice and form habits around the 4 pillars, habits became rituals, and those rituals became non-negotiables. And now I am almost 6 years into this, and it's just the way that I live my life. It's not hard. It's not something I have to force myself to do, but it continues to elevate things. Mariel Hemingway said that a ritual is a way of voting for oneself. It's a way of saying, I choose me. So as I said, those 4 pillars are things that you can do today. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to join my community. You don't have to do anything else. But if you start thinking about considering and putting those pillars to work, you can change things, and you can change things in a very big and probably unexpected way. And you can change things without feeling like you're adding just another thing to an already full to-do list, because that's not the way we do things either. By choosing these habits, by practicing these pillars, I began choosing me. I began putting myself first. And that changed things for every single person that I connect with every day. So, let's see. So here is the problem. Here is one of our biggest issues. It's that most people see self-care as a luxury instead of a priority. I now see it as a full priority. I want you to know, I want you to understand, and I want you, maybe you're rolling your eyes because especially this time of year, things are so busy for everybody, but I want you to understand that the biggest piece that you could take away today is to understand that self-care is not selfish. Through changing my own life in this way, now thousands of others, I know that to be truth. That is evidence-based. Self-care is not selfish, and I'm not necessarily talking about those bubble baths or face masks or a glass of red wine. Those can serve as self-care practices, but I'm talking about much deeper than that. I'm talking about sitting with yourself, exploring, learning, analyzing, not judging, and truly discovering your own needs. Because you are uniquely you. Nobody but you knows exactly what you need to care for yourself. By shifting your focus and intent on actually caring for yourself, you are inviting and allowing an opportunity for growth in all areas of your life. At the center of your job, at the center of your business, at the center of your volunteer initiatives, at the center of your children, at the center of your pets, at the center of your household, at the center of all of those things is you. You are in the center of all that. Your kids wouldn't be there if it wasn't for you. Your job wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't for you. And therefore, doesn't it make sense that you is where your energy is best spent fundamentally? Fundamentally. And it will take some urging in the beginning, but it will become second nature. The key is not in prioritizing our schedules anymore. It's in scheduling our priorities. What if I told you that by focusing on this first, by choosing your personal wellness, you will absolutely be more successful in everything else you do, your job, your parenting, everything you do. Science has proven this direct link. The problem, again, is that most people view self-care as a luxury, not as a priority. So if self-care is lacking in your life, it may be because you don't see it and see its impacts, see what it can do for you. Self-care is actually defined as a multidimensional, multifaceted process of purposeful engagement in strategies that promote healthy functioning and enhanced well-being. That is a big old pile of words. Self-care is defined as a multidimensional, multifaceted process of purposeful engagement in strategies that promote healthy functioning and enhanced well-being. That hits heavy. So a little illustration for you, and we're not in person, but I just want you to think about this. I'm going to ask you a few questions quickly. Do you feel tired when your alarm rings in the morning? Do you have to force things that you know are good for you? Do you feel guilty taking time for you? Do you often put your own needs last? When I mentioned the topic of self-care, or one of your initial thoughts, I don't have the time. So now tell me, where is the self-care in your life? Tell me, is self-care a luxury or is it a basic need? I'm here to tell you it's a basic need. We are all adults. We are adults with responsibilities and requirements, and we wear a million hats in the run of a day, and we have a to-do list a million miles long. We are adults with responsibilities and requirements, and we wear many hats, and we have a long to-do list. and we are deserving of self-care. Forget your beliefs otherwise. This is life-changing stuff. Self-care takes many forms. This is the stuff that was a game changer for me and really made me explore this topic and study the research, the ongoing research on this topic. There are many forms of self-care. This goes way deeper than the face masks or the sweatshirts. In no particular order, I'm just going to give you an overview of each category. And maybe in thinking about that set of strategies that we need for ourselves, maybe you can think about a category here that you've missed, or maybe you're killing it in 3 of these categories, but you could pick up a couple of more. So let me just explain to you what these are. Physical self-care is how you fuel your body. It's your physical activity. It's how much and the quality of your sleep. It's also attending appointments or taking medication or doing anything for your physical self. Social self-care is so important after these last couple of years. You may be an introvert, but you still need a certain level of social self-care. Form these connections and relationships and nourish them. Next is mental self-care, things that influence your psychological well-being, anything from puzzles or books or podcasts or therapy or practicing self-awareness or self-compassion or self-acceptance. Spiritual self-care, this is not necessarily religious-based, but it can be if that's a big part of your life. It can also be meditation. It can be journaling. It can be spending time in nature. It can be working on personal growth. And then there's emotional self-care. It's really important for us in today's world, especially, to have solid coping skills to deal with uncomfortable situations and emotions. And sometimes that shows up in a way that sees us understanding that we're amidst a hard thing, but leaning into that hard thing and also understanding that we will see ourselves to the other side of it. So now that you've seen these 5 categories, from here, you can develop a self-care strategy that best serves you. And it's important to know that this is ever changing. It's going to be different. Each one of us in this meeting right now, our self-care strategy will look different. Also, your self-care strategy today will be different next week or next month or next year because your needs are ever changing. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, and it's not supposed to be. So for example, once I fully understood the categories of self-care and the ways that it really needs to be prioritized in my life, I have developed my own strategies. And some of these, when I first started talking on this topic over a year ago, some of these were brand new things that I was trying to figure out. And now some of them are set in stone activities that I don't miss. And some examples are, sometimes self-care is finally putting away that basket of laundry that has been staring at you all week. Sometimes self-care is meeting up with my husband on a random Tuesday to have lunch together because we've been so busy with our work and our children that we haven't had a chance to connect. Sometimes self-care, or actually lately, it's been always, I carve out, I'm an entrepreneur, so I work 8 days a week, but I carve out time on Sundays. I really am intentional with my family on the weekends when they are not in school or working. So on Sundays, I take 1 hour, sometimes less, never more, and I prep for the week. I get things scheduled, organized, and I do not start the week with feelings of dread or overwhelm or those Sunday scaries. I don't put myself in that situation. Sometimes it also means if I'm traveling, whether it's to a conference or I'm traveling for a vacation with my family, I teach live online exercise classes. So sometimes if I'm traveling, I'll record them ahead just to make sure in case the internet is shaky where I'm going. So this is all self-care. Every one of these have eased my overwhelm, have boosted my confidence, and have provided me with the nurturing relationships and situations that I need to thrive. They've all been a piece of what's helped me continue to feel more well with all the passing months and years since I first began this. So for you, at first, you may need to gently force this. You may need, it may not come naturally to you at all. And in fact, you may be listening to me right now and think, yeah, that's cool, Jill. I wish I had the time. You may not even think that it's a good use of your time right now amidst your already full schedule. But I'm telling you that once you pay attention to this, once you do, you will feel yourself relax and open and clear in ways that you may not have even ever experienced in your adult life. I see it all the time. And then you're fostering growth, productivity, and you're finding that joy in the everyday. Carving out time for self-care is not a luxury. It is crucial to your wellness. And I'm a big fan of the paradigm shift. I'm a big fan of challenging things and flipping things on their head. So how about this one? Now that you understand and know the importance of self-care, and you've seen the categories of self-care, and you understand that it's a set of ever-changing strategies, well, if you decide to not engage in this in some way now, you're effectively choosing a more overwhelmed, stressed out, or burnt out version of you. And you don't deserve that. I don't want that for you. Before I finish today, I want to leave you with a little story. Often in my coaching, I share different stories, which are stories, either things, lived experiences for me, things I've learned along the way, or fables, just to drive home a point. So I want to tell you about an experience I had back early in my career when I first moved to Alberta. I went to work as a gas marketing accountant with Suncor. And I loved that team. We were a small team in downtown Calgary, and the way that was run, there was a lot of us that were new grads. So there was big intention put around fostering the new grad, really getting us set up in our careers, making sure that we're continued education and everything that we need. So I was 25 years old then, and I've never forgotten this experience. It had major impact on how my career developed in so many ways. And I often think about this situation in my wellness work. Some of you, probably all of you, are familiar with Dr. Stephen Covey's works. He is internationally renowned. He's been translated in all of the languages. He has passed, but his teachings remain very valid and relevant in today's world. I was sent as part of my team at Suncor. We were sent to an offsite retreat for a week. It was at a horse racing grounds in the south of Calgary. It was an absolutely beautiful, exquisite place. And we were sent there for a week. And it was basically an immersive experience with facilitators to explore Dr. Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you haven't read or explored this book, I really encourage you to do so. And these are I just wanted to give you an overview of what the course was. So these 7 items here are the chapters of the book. They're the 7 habits. Be proactive, begin with the end in mind, put first things first, think win-win, seek first to understand, then to be understood, synergize, and sharpen the saw. So that was what we learned about that week. I just wanted to put this out here for you to possibly explore it yourself. But during that week, one of the stories that was told to us was the story that Dr. Stephen Covey told all the time in driving home a point, and that is the story of life's big rocks. I have never forgotten this story. I think about this so often. If you think that you learned something early in your career and you won't carry it with you, then this is one of those moments where I can say that I've carried this so big. So here's the story as told by Dr. Stephen Covey. One day, this expert was speaking to a group of business students, and to drive home a point, used an illustration that I'm sure those students will never forget. After I share it with you, you'll never forget it either. As this man stood in front of the group of high-powered overachievers, he said, "Okay, time for a quiz." And then he pulled out a 1-gallon wide-mouthed mason jar and set it on the table in front of him. Then he produced about a dozen fist-sized rocks and carefully placed them one at a time into the jar. When the jar was filled to the top and no more rocks would fit inside, he said, "Is this jar full?" Everyone in the class said yes. And then he said, "Really?" He reached under the table and pulled out a bucket of gravel. He dumped some of the gravel in and then shook the jar, causing the gravel to trickle its way in around the big rocks. Then he smiled at the group once more and said, "Is this jar full?" By this time, the class was on to him. "Probably not," one of them answered. "Good," he replied, and he reached under the table and brought out a bucket of sand. He started dumping the sand in, and it went into all the spaces left between the rocks and the gravel. And once more, he asked the question, "Is this jar full?" "No," the class shouted. And once again, he said, "Good." And he pulled out a pitcher of water, and he began to pour it into the jar until the jar was filled to the absolute brim. Then he looked up at the class and said, "What is the point of this illustration?" One eager beaver raised his hand and said, "The point is, no matter how full your schedule is, if you try really hard, you can always fit some more things into it." No, no, the speaker replied. That is not the point. The truth this illustration teaches us is, if you don't put the big rocks in first, you will never get them in at all. In terms of your success in your life, in yourself, you are your biggest big rock. The things that contribute to your physical, emotional, and mental betterment, your wellness habits, they are your foundation. You caring for yourself is the biggest rock, and then come the great loves of your life, your family, your career, your pets, your home. And beyond that, there is so much room for all of the things that fill your heart and bring you joy. If you try doing it backwards, you're standing in your own way. And the pieces that you need and that you want will never fit. So choose your health, choose your wellness, and choose you. And just watch the magic that will unfold in your life. Choose you. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me. I am wide open for questions. I'll stop the share here. If you have any questions, we can go back to a gallery view. There we go.
Wow. Thank you so much. I feel so inspired and ready to go.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
Does anyone have any questions for Jill?
I certainly do. I'm so excited with your presentation, Jill, because I've been working in child welfare and victim services for 31 years, and I have 18 months to my retirement. And I'm trying to plan a retirement that will give me wellness and my clients, the opposite of what I'm doing now. And so I'm going to be doing compassionate inquiry, counseling, GLADU writing, art therapy, land-based healing, but I missed the wellness part, and I'd love to get some additional training from you. And I'm so excited about it because I'm 56 years old, trying to end a really stressful career and move right on into a business. And I'm not being really compassionate to myself. So how can I do it in a better way?
Yeah, it's particularly important in a line of work like yours, because that's the kind of work that compassion fatigue, and it's not something that you easily leave at the end of the day and walk away from. So good for you for wanting to continue into the healing piece for people, but you got to take care of you too.
Perfect. Anybody else with any? Just jump right in.
I don't really have a question, but I just want to vouch for everything that Jill said today. As I mentioned earlier, I've been 2 years in the program. I've never stuck to any program for this long, and it has 100% completely changed my life. And I was emotional throughout just listening to Jill, because so many things just rang so true for me, and things that she was saying that changed her life has certainly had the same impact on mine. And I joined shortly after I started this new career in government, my first government job. I was in a new area. So a lot of changes, and having this Jill's community kind of kept me grounded and kept the focus on me, like Jill was saying, is so important. And so the changes that I have made because of Jill's community have, when I saw the topic of avoiding burnout, I kind of thought to myself, well, I don't have that worry right now because of Jill's community, because I carve out that time for myself. And I'm an advocate for anyone that will listen to me about how amazing the community is. And so I really try to be a champion for that, on behalf of Jill. And just if anybody has any inkling to check it out, I highly recommend it. Try it for a month and you'll see.
Thank you. I love having you in our community. And it's so I've talked on this topic many times now, and there's always emotion in the audience, always. And it's one of two things. It's either the realization that you really got to start taking care of yourself, or it's the looking back on how far you've come. And that's you, Erica, for example. And I think too, the reminders, even when I often get emotional when I give this talk, because I can see what a massive change it was in my life. And then I get to have a career based on this, that I can help other people. But then I'm reminded of ways that I could probably pick up a little more self-care in one of these categories myself.
For sure. Like you always say too, it's not like, okay, I did it, I'm well. I'm going to
Yeah.
be well forever. It's a continuous effort.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem with the fitness and diet industry. They're like, do this in 60 days. It's
Right.
not about 60 days. We got a long life to live, and we want to do it well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jill. This has been really, really awesome. If there's no one else has any more questions, then we'll finish up for today.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me.